Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Again, I'm sorry. There you go. Again, good afternoon to all, and we welcome you to our third community events permit outreach. This outreach is being recorded and will be available on the CEP website. Again, we request to have your microphone be muted so we can easily hear the speakers and prevent feedback. If capable, we encourage you to please turn on your cameras because we would like to see all of you. We have 13 representatives who will be presenting today. Questions received ahead of time before this outreach is included in the presentation. All the questions will be entertained at the end of the whole presentation, so kindly write them down in the chat. Before we go into details, some might have heard or read my name on the CEP website. For the new nonprofit organization officers and members and community representatives, I am Jesselme Esteban, and I am the Community Events Permit Coordinator. I work for the Department of Environmental Health and Quality. The presentation this afternoon is specifically for the unincorporated county of San Diego, and it includes both public and private properties. You might recognize your community in this list. We would like to thank you for your time today because this outreach is for you. We are going to walk you through the permitting procedure. We will begin by reviewing the County of San Diego Code of Regulatory Ordinance on Community Events. The ordinance can be found on Title II, Licenses, Business Regulations, and Business Taxes, Division 1, Business Regulations, under Chapter 2, Community Events. Community event is defined as an event sponsored by a nonprofit organization or any agency of the federal, state, or local government that is 4 hours or more and can be up to 4 consecutive days in duration, and the event is open to the general public. Events that meet this criteria requires a community event permit, and the issuing officer is the Department of Environmental Health and Quality. The ordinance allows the nonprofit organizations to have a maximum of 6 community events within the 12-month period. This is per fiscal year, which starts every July of the current year until June of the following year. The community event permit is free. Other county departments may have fees and will be discussed during their presentation. If the event does not qualify for the community event processing, examples of which are the event organizer is a for-profit organization, or the event duration, including setup and cleanup time, is less than 4 hours, how will the event organizers proceed? I can assist the organizers by notifying the county departments by providing their event information. I will need the event information intake form as well as the event site map. The event organizer will then reach out to the different county departments after 5 business days to follow up on the requirements for the permit, for the approval, or for the confirmation that a permit will not be required for the event. The contact list of each department representatives can be found at the CEP website. The following are the requirements in obtaining a community event permit. The event organizer shall submit the CEP application at least 30 days before the first day of the event. We can accept application as early as 1 year before the event. The second is the event organizer shall provide proof of nonprofit organization status from the California Secretary of State that the organization is in good standing. We can accept a certificate of status or the California nonprofit entity number that has been issued to the organization. The third one is insurance coverage. Risk management will need the certificate of liability of insurance, and a separate additional insured endorsement. This requirement will be discussed in detail by our risk management representative. And lastly, the supplemental documents which are based on the activities included in the event required by the different county departments. Always remember, the application is incomplete until all requirements have been submitted. We have been updating the CEP application and forms and even the event sitemap to consolidate the information needed by each department in a single application for the event. Kindly use these forms in future events. The following are the supplemental documents that may be required for the event. If there will be food activity, Form A is required. Form A is the event organizer's application. A temporary event organizer permit is required for anyone who organizes a community event that sells or gives away food or beverages to the public. Completed application must be submitted 30 days or at least 14 days before the event to avoid late fee. Now, if you are going to have food vendors, a temporary food facility permit is required for anyone that sells or provides food or beverages at a temporary event. This includes the event organizer if they are going to have a food booth. The application must be submitted 30 days or at least 14 days before the event date to avoid late fee. Form B is specifically for the Sheriff's Licensing and Registration Division. This form has 3 sections. Section 1 is for merchandise vendors. Section 2 is for hired securities. And Section 3 is for fireworks and pyrotechnics. Now, when you submit the merchandise vendors, make sure that you include the merchandise that will be available during the event. When you're going to be submitting the hired security, make sure you submit the security contract that is signed by both parties. And lastly, for fireworks, make sure you include the agreement or contract for the fireworks vendor. Now, Form C and D is specifically for the Department of Public Works Transportation Division. This will be required if the event organizer will be using a county-maintained road. It's either for a bike ride, a parade, or a race. Now, Form E will be required by the Department of Public Works, Solid Waste Planning and Recycling. This is when an event has 2,000 and more of attendees per day. Again, 2,000 of more attendees per day and not for the duration of the event. So if you are going to have 3-day event, make sure that you put there the number of attendees per day and not the cumulative number. Now, completed forms can be submitted either by email, by fax, or in person. If you intend to turn in the application in person, kindly be aware that the office is closed from 12 to 1 for lunch. Once the CEP application has been reviewed and processed, you will receive an email with the link and instruction on how to check the status of your CEP application. The link will send you to the Public Service Citizen Access website. Make sure you are on the DEHQ tab. Enter the record number that was provided in the email, and under record type, kindly choose Community Event Permit. Click on Enter or Search at the bottom of the website. You will see another window, and you can find the event information. You will see the address of the event, the name of the event, and the different agencies reviewing the CEP application. You will see the status if it's approved or pending, and you will see the date when it was approved. Now, when event organizers submit the application, they would like to know, how long will it take to have the application be approved? The answer to this question is that it depends on the completeness of the submission. These are guidelines that can help avoid delays in the approval of the application. When planning your event, make sure to check the status of your nonprofit organization with the California Secretary of State. Some event organizers doesn't know that the status has already been suspended. So they keep on planning. At the end, it will be canceled or postponed because the status needs to be activated. Second, it is recommended to kindly contact the CEP coordinator ahead of time to confirm the requirements for the different event activities. Third, we have a checklist available on our website. Kindly utilize this tool. It will help you follow and know what documents you have submitted and what documents you still need to submit. Next one will be make sure that when you submit an application, submit it as complete as possible. We understand that there are some information or documents that cannot be submitted ahead of time because you're still getting the list of live entertainments or your insurance still pending and the renewal will be at a later date. Then we understand that and we will wait for that document. Now, when you get your insurance, provide the CEP insurance requirement guidelines to the insurance representative. This is the most common cause of delay because the certificate of liability insurance must be amended or the submission is incomplete. When it comes to the merchandise vendor list, again, provide the merchandise that will be available for the event. This is important to the Sheriff's Licensing Division review aspect. Pertaining food activities at the event, when you have interested food vendors, verify if they have a valid permit or health permit for temporary events. And also, as much as possible, kindly submit the complete list of food vendors at least 14 days before the event date without any modification. Modification will result to late fee submission, and that is for both the event organizer and the food vendor. And lastly, if you are working in a committee and you have several people working and submitting applications and documents, kindly notify the community event coordinator to avoid confusion if you have persons that are not listed as representatives on the submitted CEP application. Notifying the coordinator can avoid the confusion with the other departments, and this is to prevent the delay in the processing and approval. Now, on the CEP website, we have a QR code that is available. For a quick query, it can provide information on the CEP website, our frequently asked questions, how to obtain a permit for a public event, the CEP application, and the presentation on community events permit process from the previous outreach. So now what we have is from the year 2023. We also have included the link for today's outreach and for our next outreach. These are the county departments involved in reviewing the CEP application and supplemental documents that you submit. If you have any questions on this presentation, kindly write them in the chat and I will answer them at the end of the whole presentation. Now that we know the requirements for a community event at the unincorporated County of San Diego, as the event organizer, how will you know if the venue you choose is allowed to have a temporary community events? Our next speaker is Luis Angel Melendres of the Planning and Development Services Zoning, who will explain the zoning ordinance on events.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Luis Angel, and I'm here to explain what we do here in the zoning department. sorry, all right, thank you. Where are temporary events allowed? So persistent to the section 6106A of the zoning ordinance, a circus, carnival, or any other outdoor entertainment event may be permitted in any zone except for the subjects to RS, RD, RM, and RV use regulations. If you have a RS, RD, RM, or RV use regulation, you could still have a temporary event with a major use permit. So to find out your zoning, we could use this tool, the property summary report. Here's the link for the tool. We input the APN or the parcel number. We hit submit, and it generates this report for us. On the second page, it gives us the use regulation. Right here, they have an RR, so they're able to have a temporary event. So here's our regulations for the duration. The period of operation of the circus, carnival, or any other outdoor entertainment event should not exceed 5 consecutive days. No more than 6 events per year on the same property. And there should be a minimum of 14 consecutive days between events. And there are a few exceptions. Libraries and parks are exempt from these regulations, so they can have more than 6 events in a year, and they do not need a 2-week gap between events. If an event does not meet these regulations, then they would be considered a participant sport and recreation use type. Thank you. That's all I have. And feel free to ask any of us here any question you may have.
So thank you, Luis Angel. So kindly write down your questions in the chat, and we will address it at the end of the whole presentation. Now, our next speaker is Marisa Han of the Sheriff's Licensing and Registration Division. Welcome, Marisa.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I do apologize. We have relocated, so our camera does not work. So that's the reason why we don't have a camera today. So I do apologize. But so our department handles the for-profit licenses, as you see on the screen here. Our most popular one is our outdoor assemblage license. So that license has the propensity to have 350 people or more, including vendors. We ask for that one that any applicant verifies with zoning before reaching out to us. All of the licenses that you see here require a 60-day notice or submission for us to be able to process it appropriately. Some of the examples for that outdoor assemblage, which we get a lot, is like a Spanish rodeo, Shop My Porch, and festival events. Those are usually the most popular that we get questions about. But these are all the for-profit licenses that our department offers. If anybody has any questions, please put it in the chat.
Thank you. And you can see Marisa's contact information. Now, Jose Barrera of the County Risk Management Division will discuss the insurance requirements for events. Welcome, Jose.
Hello, good afternoon. Like Jessel mentioned, my name is Jose Barrera, and I'm with Risk Management Division, and we handle the insurance side of things for these community events. We do require insurance coverage from the event organizers, along with additional insured endorsement to be included in the packet there. We might require vendors or service providers to provide insurance as well. So this goes for like someone having a bounce house, a petting zoo, a carnival, some kind of activity, a shuttle to and from the event. We would require insurance from them as well. When we collect insurance, we're asking for a couple different documents. One is the certificate of insurance. Want to make sure that the general liability limit is set at $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate. Additionally, to the certificate itself, we want to make sure we collect a additional insurance endorsement, either a CG 2012 or a 2026, or an equivalent of those endorsements, and make sure that it does list the county as an additional insured with the proper verbiage. If your event is going to have alcohol, we need to include liquor liability insurance of $1 million per occurrence. Host liquor liability is not acceptable. And then whether it's like a restaurant, events at a restaurant, or there's an organization, whoever's applying for the ABC permit itself to have the liquor, we want to make sure we collect the insurance, liquor liability insurance from that organization. Insurance coverage should include setup and dismantle dates, so not just the day of the event. I want to make sure that those dates are covered and coverage is in effect prior to the event when the setup is going on, and as well as the dismantle of the event. And then insurance requirements depend on the level of risk, and they're all subject to approval. Risk, we could ask for additional information. And then lastly, these requirements itself don't pertain to for-profit events, just our nonprofit organizations. As far as insurance goes, that's it on our end. Thank you.
And we have Jose's contact information on this slide. Thank you, Jose.
Absolutely.
Again, if you have any question, kindly write down on chat and we will address it at the end of the presentation. Now, majority of events will not be complete without food vendors. We have Christine Valky Soriano as our next speaker. Welcome, Christine.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. My name is Christine Valky Soriano. I'm an environmental health technician here in the Department of Environmental Health. Next slide. Temporary events permit. Here's the type of temporary events available. We will create a permit document list for permits, describe what is allowed on each permit. On January 1st of 2023, we implement what we call late fee, submittal fee if we receive the application less than 14 days. There will be a new take look on January 1st of this year. If it's less than 25 square feet, you do not have to submit any packet, or if it's PHF or beverages, and it's an approved source if they have an approval from us. Next slide, please. This is an example of a 3-compartment sink. Most of the it is required that each event have a 3-compartment sink, and it's not more than 100 feet from the vendors. Overhead protection are required. Not technically organized requirements. Washing agreement letter with the restaurant, and each vendor must have a dish soap and sanitize to each utensils or equipment. Next slide. This is a sample of a warewashing on each vendor. They need to have a spout or a cooler and a bassinet down below. And this is required for each vendors. Next slide. And if you have any question, you can reach out to me or with 2 of my colleagues, Beatrice or I, or Luisa, and my contact information is this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine.
Welcome.
Now, when there is an event, there is a possibility in the increase of number of pedestrians as well as flow of vehicles that may affect the traffic situation of a community. We have Danilo Mapala, who is responsible in reviewing, processing, and issuing special events permit for events related to county-maintained road.
Thank you, Giselle. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Mapala. I am the representative for the Department of Public Works Transportation Division. And my presentation today is about special event permit, what it is and when is it required. DPW special event permit is a county permit required for nonprofit events that will impact traffic operation on county-maintained roadway. And these are like lane closure, temporary lane shift, and installation of temporary traffic control devices or signs. Next slide. Nonprofit events that require SEP or special event permits are parade, festival or fair, athletic events such as bicycle ride, 5K, 10K walk, run, and even triathlons, certified farmers market, and neighborhood block party. These are the requirements. One is permit application, which is Form D. Special event, special conditions and agreement needs to be initial and signed by the event organizer and also the event sponsor. Traffic control plans need to be stamped by professional engineer or a licensed traffic control contractor. And then, of course, insurance documents need to be reviewed by risk management. Next slide. And we also there are also other supplemental requirements. If your event needs CHP assistance, and we will require a CHP agreement contract. And if your event will impact adjacent Caltrans highway, we will need a copy of approved permit from Caltrans. And if your event is hiring a traffic control contractor, we will need additional insurance documents. Next slide, please. And we accept application at least 30 days in advance of the event. And if you have additional questions or you need to contact me, please, my email and contact info is posted on the slide. You can contact me anytime. And
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Again, if you have any question, write it down in the chat and we will
Yes.
address it later. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, if you decided to have your event at the county park, we have Jessie Vasquez Ortiz who will be providing information on the Department of Parks and Recreation requirements. Welcome, Jessie.
Hi. I'm Jessie Vasquez Ortiz. I handle the large events that go on in our county parks. I do apologize. I do not have a camera on my computer. So I do apologize for that. So most of our large events are held at our regional parks. A park reservation and use agreement are needed separate from the SEP permit for events proposed at county parks. So your first step would be contact the reservation desk to see if your desired park location is available for the date you are interested in. Also make sure it has the capacity and infrastructure to host your event. Many parks do not allow events after dark. Park reservations are available a year in advance. So if the park is available, the reservation team will help you secure your reservation to hold your event space and draft a use agreement. The SEP will still need to be approved for the event to occur. The park's reservation team will need additional documentation from you to hold your event, certificate of insurance, a hold harmless, and a signed park agreement, and more depending on the extent of the event.
Thank you, Jessie. And again, this is the reservation desk phone number that she mentioned a while ago. So if you need to contact the reservation, kindly note this telephone number.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessie. Our next speaker is Michael Cassidy of the Planning and Development Services Building Division, who will provide us information on requirements if there will be temporary electrical or structural installation. Welcome, Michael.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. Michael Cassidy, one of the senior civil engineers in the building division. So we cover the unincorporated areas of the county. Giselle, next slide, please. So yeah, building permits are required for all types of structures, even some that may be included in these special events, even though they're short term. And this is to ensure life safety is upheld with these structures. A lot of times there's lots of people gather together. And it's pretty broad statement for a permit being needed for setting up these structures. But rather than going through our normal process through like the building department, luckily with the community event permit, it's considered a valid permit, and we're able to kind of streamline the review a little bit. Next slide, please. And so some of the more common structures that we're concerned about, like bleachers, stages, items like that. Sometimes they're small enough, like a stage, for example, if it's less than 30 inches, we're not as concerned. It's kind of exempt from a permit. But we're looking at, again, kind of the setup. So we may ask for additional information on, if, from the manufacturer setting it up, some of their information, kind of installation certification. And this kind of helps us make sure like things are done safely and properly. So many times on the application, we're just asking for a clarification. Sometimes stages are already built, like obviously in a building with a venue may have a stage existing, or it can be a concrete stage on the ground. And just so knowing that we're not going to have any issues with that. It's mainly if you're bringing in temporary structures for like stages and bleachers, things like that. And sometimes we're looking at tents with fire, but they have kind of more of the enforcement of those. But that's kind of it. There's also, if there's any permanent electrical wiring, which usually isn't the case. So most of the time, we don't have any issues with this, but just kind of looking for those bigger events where they're putting in some of these temporary structures. But that's basically it. And there's my information if you want to reach out to me, any questions on in these community event permits or any other building related questions. Thank you, Giselle.
Thank you, Mike. Now we are going to proceed with the presentation. Our next speaker is Mai Tran, who will provide information on the county ordinance on noise. This is very important, especially if the event will have live entertainment. So welcome, Mai.
Thank you, Janelle. So with the county ordinance, there's really the whole purpose of the noise abatement is we want to make sure we don't disturb or offend anybody in the nearby area. So we tend to look and regulate for public health, safety, comfort, and convenience of the visitors and also the surrounding neighborhoods. I put here the definition of sound amplifying equipment only because sometimes we have things that will enhance music, the human voice, travel, microphones such as that, and radios being used for our public announcement or something in that manner. So here it's really just what our sound level limits are and the time regulation. As you can see, there's different areas in the zoning that has certain time sensitive, and a lot of the sound are on a limit of an hour average. So usually when a community event permit comes in, our portion is just we look at the map of the event and of the property and surrounding areas. But at that time, we also review what the time and the duration of the event. If there is any use of a public address sound system, we do like to see which direction and the number of speakers that are used so that we can minimize any potential complaints that can come from these. If it's a non-amplified noise, usually that is reviewed with our planning and development services, and those include traffic vendors, patrons that participate. This is our contact information. You can reach out to either myself or Mike. And then we also have a general call center if it's after hours or any of those call time that's not normal business hours. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Mai.
Thank you, Giselle.
Okay. Now, some events has animal activities. We have Rachel Borelli of the Department of Animal Services. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Giselle. I'm Rachel Borelli from the County of San Diego Animal Services. You can go to the next slide. So the Animal Welfare Act is a federal law in the United States that sets a standard for the humane treatment and care of animals. It primarily applies to animals in research, expeditions, and transportation. So it doesn't specifically apply to like rodeos, adoption events, animal rides, or exhibitors. So what we look for, you can go to the next slide if you want. What we look for is in the state of California, petting zoos, circuses, adoption events, they're regulated primarily under the California Health and Safety Code. So when I'm looking at an application, I just want to make sure that the animals are not near food and that there's proper water, et cetera, for them. Now with a rodeo, on the bottom of the application, there is a thing where you have to have a veterinarian. So any rodeo has to have a vet. So we're always looking for the veterinarian name, the address, and phone number. If there is if at a rodeo there is an animal or a person gets injured, that does need to be documented and sent to the state veterinary medical board within 7 days of the injury. And that's really it for us. So individuals and businesses of the Lions and Tigers and Bears, the Children's Nature Retreat Foundation, these organizations fall under our licensing department. And so it doesn't really qualify for events. But if any of these organizations do events, we just make sure that, again, that the animals have appropriate water, that it's not near food or anything like that. If you have any questions, please just reach out to me. This is my contact information, and I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Rachel. As part of making sure that in case of emergencies at community events, the San Diego County Fire Protection District is also notified and involved in the CEP application review process. We have Deputy Fire Marshal David Sibit as our next speaker. Welcome, David.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Our goal is to make sure that your events are safe and successful, so we review each one of them. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things that we are most interested in. First and foremost, of course, is if you plan on having fireworks at your event, we require early coordination with the fireworks operator and often include an inspector at the event to make sure they have proper setbacks and the operator is meeting the fire code with the fireworks. And oftentimes we'll have large fireworks displays, we'll coordinate with the local station to make sure that an engine is close by just to assure nothing happens. Our second concern is very large tents. Anything above the 10 by 10 easy ups, we're concerned with that they are properly installed and have proper exits and fire extinguishers and things of that nature. So if you're proposing an event with a large tent, we want to work with the operators early so that we can inspect the tent prior to the event. So in between it going up and the event. So that takes some coordination between us and the applicants. We, of course, also have concerns with campfires and bonfires to make sure that they are properly away from vegetation and won't create a larger event, of course. We're also concerned with access. If you have a large crowd in a confined area, we want to make sure that if something happens, people can exit properly. There's other potentially hazardous concerns, but nothing too large. And I just wanted to highlight those points. And I think on the next slide is my contact information. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, the Watershed Protection Program has a vital role in maintaining our waterways clean. We have Cameron Powers who will provide the requirements for special events. Welcome, Cameron.
Thanks, Giselle. So yeah, I'm Cameron Powers with County of San Diego's Watershed Protection Program, and we're going to discuss stormwater BMPs for your special events. So first, what is stormwater, right? So it's rainwater, comes from several points of contact until it reaches a river, bay, lake, or ocean. So you can see on the right, in that photo there in the top right, there are several different points of sources there. So you have runoff from the roof, maybe you have some runoff from the lawn, fertilizer, and that sort of stuff. Then it goes to the street, makes its way down through our culverts into a waterway. So what's the big deal, right? You may say, hey, isn't this stuff treated? Unfortunately, stormwater is not treated for pollutants, and excess runoff can contribute to channel erosion. Next slide, please. So this photo just illustrates even further several sources of pollutants that we may not take into consideration. So one we see a lot of is people not picking up after their dogs as they take a lovely stroll. Another one is automotive fluids from a leaking vehicle, and of course, erosion and sediment. Next slide as well. So it's important to think what's downstream of you. In District 2, there are multiple watersheds. So the first is San Dieguito. Next slide, please. So there's a photo of the San Dieguito River Park. Next slide, please. You have Los Penasquitos. Next slide, please. The San Diego River, Sweetwater River, Otay, Tijuana, which of course is always in the news, unfortunately. And then you have Anza Borrego. So what are the main pollutants of concern for special events? There's bacteria. Unfortunately, that makes people sick. And then the common sources of that are portable toilets, trash, and animal waste. You have oils and soaps. These have a negative impact on our aquatic life, and common sources of those are motor oil, food grease, and washing. Think washing your pavements, put cleaning product, that sort of thing. And then of course you have trash, right? So common sources of that are overflowing trash cans, as well as people littering. Next slide, please. So now what can you do to best prevent these this pollution? You can start off by making sure all your storm drain inlets in the event area are covered and protected. So you see a filter there and then another rug. You can also make sure that you take in consideration when you're planning your event where your portable toilets are going to be, placing them away from inlets and water bodies. And we also strongly recommend purchasing secondary containment, as you can see in that photo, just to take in consideration any spills. Next slide, please. You can place trash cans and recycling bins in convenient locations. And another important thing is to make sure those lids stay closed and maintain them as well so they don't overflow during the event and post-event. And then we have different types of best management practices as identified in that photo. It's also important to have a spill response on site, so spill pads and rags. It's also important to make sure staff is trained to correctly implement those tools and procedures. Next slide, please. So we have some sources here. I'm going to throw in my contact information in the chat. So if you have any questions or, after this presentation, you can feel free to reach out to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. Now, our point of contact for the Department of Agriculture and Weights and Measure is Monica Winters. She cannot join us today, but we are fortunate to have Mario Maldonado, who is a part of the program and is the lead agricultural standards inspector of the program. Mario will provide us information on the Certified Farmers Market and the Temporary Agritourism Community Event. Welcome, Mario.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to provide a very quick description of the farmers market application and the qualified applicants. So a farmers market, certified farmers market is a location approved by the County Agricultural Commissioner where agricultural products which have been produced by a producer or certified producer may be sold or offered for sale. The operator of a certified farmers market may operate a separate non-agricultural product area next to the certified farmers market. A certified farmers market certificate is valid for up to 12 months from the date of issue, but no longer than the indicated expiration date on the certificate. And the qualified applicants are certified producers, local government agency, and nonprofit organizations. And our role is to help these applicants to get the certified farmers market certificate and then let them know which departments and programs they need to get in contact with in order to be in compliance with all the other departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Yes. Now, our next speaker is Caitlin Lowe of the DPW Solid Waste Planning and Recycling. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hello. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. I apologize. I'm getting over a little cold, so apologies for my sick voice right now. But again, my name is Caitlin Lowe. I am a recycling specialist for the Department of Public Works, Solid Waste Planning and Recycling. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the recycling requirements. Again, as Jessel mentioned, that it's for attendees that are 2,000 plus. So for per day, 2,000 plus attendees. So I'm just going to go over the recycling and now food recovery requirements for the large events. So the current requirements right now are to have all 3 streams for service if you are having, especially if you're having food. So that's including trash, recycling, blue bin containers, and organics, green bin containers. We want to make sure that these containers are paired throughout your event for all the attendees and or employees that are working these events. So if you have a trash, it needs to be paired with those recycling bins as well. They need to be labeled properly so that people can distinguish what goes where. And let's see, the requirements for, 2,000 attendees, basically we're looking for people that are going to be potential also food donators as well, or food generators. If you are a food generator, then that just means we basically want you to have something set up with a food bank that basically states that you guys are, if you do have recoverable food, that you have something set up to where you can donate that potential edible food. So this will be required for the attendees at large events that charge admission. This is going to be for the events that are brick and mortar. So not so much for like the food trucks or like food tents. Those tend to be more of like the perishable foods, not really recoverable. But if it's brick and mortar, we are finding that there are more potential for edible food to be recovered. I do have some resources available that I can link in the chat for setting up something for with a food recovery organization, and just kind of seeing the safe handling checklist, things like that. And then let's see, I think, oh yes, and then for the large events, if you are 2,000 plus attendees, you will have to turn in a Form E prior to your event. The county recycling section does offer free resources to these events if you guys are in need of containers to disperse throughout your event. We do offer Clearstream bins that we can, help you guys disperse the bins throughout. We also have signage, stickers, things like that. So we want to make sure you guys are obviously set up for success in separating materials. I know it can be a little difficult to get such a large group of people to kind of conform with that. So whatever we can do to kind of assist you on that. I will be the best contact to assist you guys with that. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, I have my contact information. I can put it in the chat as well. I'll also post some of the resources that I was kind of mentioning earlier. And yeah, if you have any questions, I guess we'll find out at that.
Thank you, Caitlin. And this is her contact information. Now, the following questions were submitted prior to today's outreach. The first question that was submitted is, do you have a list of all county departments representatives? And the answer is yes. The document is available on the CEP website in the resources and guidelines section. So when you go to the CEP website, kindly scroll down until you reach the bottom of the section, and you'll see resources and guideline, and it is the second document. And this is how it looks like. So this is my contact information, and this is the list of all the representatives for each department. It includes their name, their telephone number, and their email. The next question that we have is will be answered by the different departments. And the first one is, what if 12 charities in Ramona wanted to host a monthly poker night fundraiser so that each month it is hosted by a different charity and each charity hosts no more than one per year, but it is the same night each month, like the third Friday night is poker night for local charity. Please discuss the gambling permit process and restrictions related to poker night for charity fundraisers. Marisa or Jessica, would you like to answer the question? I can continue. So the first one is, for the event organizer to have this kind of activity or event, they need to apply with the Bureau of Gambling Control. The second one is they need to apply for a casino license with the Sheriff's Licensing Division and registration. Now, we will discuss the first one. So the nonprofit organization should go to the Bureau of Gambling Control website, and it can be found in the State of California Department of Justice, and it has a specific program that is Nonprofit Organization Gambling Fundraiser Registration Program. Eligible nonprofit organization can hold charity poker night fundraisers, but they need to submit an annual registration form prior for approval. So it should be submitted to the Bureau of Gambling Control, and each event organizer should read in full detail Business and Professional Code sections 19985 through 19987. Now, if you have any questions and need further assistance, kindly contact their help desk at 916-830-1700, or you can also email them. Now, each nonprofit organization may hold only one gambling fundraiser per calendar year, and they have a list of only approved games. The roulette, craps, 21, slot machine, banking percentage game played for anything of value are prohibited and cannot lawfully be played for fundraising purposes. It is very important that you need to read the regulation of the California Department of Justice Bureau of Gambling Control. Now, next, so once you have an approval from the state, you need to apply for the casino license, and this is with the Sheriff's Licensing Division registration. It is governed under the San Diego County Code of Regulatory Ordinances under Title II, Business Regulation and Business Taxes, Division 1, Business Regulation, Chapter 4, Casino Parties. So pretty much, again, read the fundraising at Business and Professions Code section 19985. This is very important because it is included in the application. Now, what is the application? You need to submit the application 30 days before the event date. You need to provide the proof of registration and approval from the State Bureau of Gambling Control. You need to submit a complete list of prices containing a fair market value of each prize that will be awarded and a statement that the person signing the application has read and is familiar with this chapter or this whole ordinance about casino and its entirety and agrees to make a copy of the chapter of the ordinance available to all the organization members who will be volunteering at the event. Now, if you're going to be having vendors who will be supplying equipment, you need to provide a copy of a signed agreement with the person who is supplying the gaming equipment. The contact person for the casino license is Latricia Glover Walker. You can directly contact her at 858-974-2025 or through her email. So that is the answer for the charities and fundraising and poker night. Marisa or Jessica, are you available? If not, I'm going to proceed to the next question. Are there special restrictions related to alcohol and gambling? So this is the response of the Alcohol and Beverage Control. Illegal gambling is prohibited, and no gambling can be contingent upon the sale or consumption of alcohol at the event. A specific example that they provided is beer pong for money is illegal. So you cannot do such kind of activities combining alcohol and gambling. The next question is, can we host a monthly event at a bar, winery, or brewery? Multiple divisions or departments answer these questions. The first one is from the ABC, or Alcoholic Beverage Control. The nonprofit event organizer and the bar, winery, or brewery owners shall comply with the ABC's regulation. Kindly contact them directly for requirements and restrictions. They have 2 local offices, one in San Marcos and one in San Diego. You need to let them know who will be selling the alcohol. Will it be donated, or the sales by the restaurant will be donated to the nonprofit organization, or will the nonprofit organization will be selling the alcohol itself and the restaurant, bar, or winery will not be selling? You need to provide those information to ABC. Next is the Food and Housing, the Water and Housing Division Temporary Events Program. The answer is yes. If there is food or beverages at the event, a temporary event permit is required for each charity at each location for each date. If the charity is a nonprofit organization and has the determination letter from IRS as a nonprofit, which is the 501c3, the event organizer's health permit fees are waived for 6 events in the fiscal year. But this excludes the late fee. If you are going to submit the application less than 14 days of the event, you will need to pay the late fee charge. Now, the other question is, if the hosting nonprofit wants to be at either their own private establishment or private venue, can the nonprofit host, cater alcohol, or get an alcohol permit with the gambling permit for their month? So again, there are multiple divisions and departments and agencies who answered this question. The first thing you need to verify is with zoning. Is the proposed venue allowed to hold a temporary community event? We will need the assessor parcel number of the property in order to determine how the property is zoned. Once it has been confirmed that event can be allowed, then you can submit an application. For the ABC, the nonprofit organization shall obtain a daily license from ABC if they are the one who's going to be selling the alcohol. Always remember, a permit will be required to the organization or entity who will be selling the alcohol. Now, for the Sheriff's Licensing Division, again, because of the gambling, You need to provide proof of registration and approval from the State Bureau of Gambling Control and apply for the casino license in order to have the gambling activity at the event. And again, if you're going to have food, because of the alcohol, it is an alcohol beverage, you are required to have a health permit. If there is food, beverages at the event, a temporary event permit is required. Now, the last one is, if it is hosted at a bar or restaurant, it is an alcohol permit. Is an alcohol permit even required because they are in the business? So ABC wanted to know, again, more information regarding this type of activity. Kindly reach out to them for the requirements and restrictions, because there are restrictions on how the alcohol will be sold. They have the San Marcos office as well as the San Diego office. Now, we would like to acknowledge Melissa Ryan and Rebecca Epstein, the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, who provided the information and answers to that question. Now, we are going to address the question from the chat. Ryan?
Yeah, I can help you out with that, Jessel.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Let me
thank
see.
you. Okay, so this will be for the entire group because some of these questions might shift into people's specific lanes. So the first question we have is we are planning to have a 5K and only using the sidewalk. Do they need any supplemental requirements for this?
Danilo, can you answer the question?
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they still need to submit like a site map or a route of where their what their route is, and also the intake form, so we can determine if a permit is required.
All right, so still need to have that paperwork submitted. Jessel, you can stop sharing your screen because it's pulling up your team's
Oh,
thing as
sorry.
well. Okay.
Oh, my apologies. There you go.
All right. Next question. Can I acquire my community event permit more than 60 days before the event? I remember in the past, event permits had to be submitted at least 30 days, but no more than 60 days. So I'll start with that first half of the question. Can they be submitted more than 60 days prior to the event?
Okay. I will answer the question. Yes, as what I said, you can submit the CEP application at least 1 year before the event. But we know that there are some documents that will not be able to be submitted because you're still collecting information regarding logistics.
And I think that ties into the second half of this question from Tony. Also, is there any way to receive the community event permit sooner, potentially months beforehand? I remember during one of my previous events, the county waited until days before the date to issue the permit.
Yes, you can do that. When you, if you can remember the requirements, the application is not complete if it has not, if all the documents has not been submitted. So it is very important to submit everything, because if it's not submitted, it delays the approval. So if you submit everything, then we have 15 days to respond to you and issue the permit.
So basically, yes, it can be issued
Yes.
earlier as long as everything is completed in time.
Correct.
Now, Belinda, for your question, I was hoping you can unmute and provide some clarification. Belinda's asking, what are the guidelines for prepackaged food? And can you expand upon that question a little for us?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're trying to decide this year about Earth Day that we're holding up here in Ramona. We're moving our location to Begent's Ranch, and we think that that's, you know, going to be a little bit different situation from when we've used the community garden at St. Mary's Episcopal Church in town. And we're just trying to decide what's going to be best for that location. That location has held several events in the past, the Wine and Art Festival and then the Animar Festival. So this location's all new to me. So we're looking at if we have it catered at that location, are we still going to need that 3-compartment sink, or the caterers, are they responsible for that?
So you had the second half of the question as well about
Yeah.
using a caterer and when are
Yeah,
they
and
responsible for
then,
the same.
yeah, for, if we just did prepackaged foods.
So I can answer that question on behalf of our food program. Caterers cannot cater public events. They are only able to cater private events as part of our catering allowance, both in our ordinance and the retail food code. So if you're having a public event such as this, you will need to stick with the temporary food facility vendors to be able to provide food during the events. And they could be open food or prepackaged food vendors, depending on the type of permit they have.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I add, Ryan?
Sure.
Yes, because before we discuss that, if you're gonna have 100% prepackaged food that is not potentially hazardous, and if it is less than 25 square feet, I discussed with you that there will be an exemption and a health permit will not be required. So that's the new one.
Yeah, but and for most of your events, 25 square feet is about a 6x4
Yeah.
folding table. It's not a lot of food. We call that incidental food sales. So if you're looking
Yeah.
to have a significant number of participating, the exemption wouldn't necessarily apply for most situations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, next question from Todd. Does a school district have to fill out an application to conduct an event on school district property, i.e. Indoor band concert, father-daughter dance, graduations? I'll start with that, and then we'll go on to the second question. Jessel?
Oh, yes, I'm reading that one. Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, so if this is a specific like a school activity, so this is within the school.
Yeah,
But
it sounds
if-
like this is a
uh-huh.
school event
Yeah.
for the students.
Yeah, But if it's gonna be a promotion that is big scale, then a CEP application will be required. But if it is
So- Something like a harvest festival or a carnival that's open to the
Carnival,
community
yes,
would
correct.
require it to go through the CEP permit process, and something where like the examples they gave, a band concert or a father-daughter dance or a graduation event, those can be handled with the school and the school's infrastructure normally without a CEP permit.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then for the second part, if an outside group is conducting an event on school district property, do they fill out this permit? And if required, whose responsibility is it to ensure it gets completed? So this would be an outside company just using the property to host their event.
And who will be the organizer? So if it's
Outside,
like
an outside group,
yeah,
a nonprofit. Let's assume a nonprofit for the CEP discussion.
So it's going to be an outside group, a nonprofit organization, and if it is open to the general public, and they fit the criteria of what is a community event, then they are required to have a community event permit.
And if they do not meet the criteria, they'll have to work with the individual departments for those permit
Correct.
requirements.
So the next process is that if you don't qualify for a CEP permitting process, it is better to submit an event intake form, because our purpose here is to make sure that in case of an emergency, the county departments are aware of the event and can assist you.
Right. And the next question, Jessel, is a permit necessary for a gala at a casino or a restaurant?
So the question is, who is doing the gala? Oh,
So
Lynn.
Yeah, Lynn, do you want to elaborate on that for your
Yes,
example?
So it would be a Chamber of Commerce gala at a casino or a restaurant where that entity, wherever it is, would be doing all the food and all that kind of stuff.
And is it
It would
only
be
for members?
It would be so that's part of the thing. It's like, so if we invite members, we're okay, right? But if we invite the community, then we need a permit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if you're doing it at a restaurant, the restaurant has their own health permit, so they'd be able to provide the food as an extension of their permit with no other additional permits needed for those situations.
Right, thank you.
Okay. All right. And then Belinda had the question of what is the fee for a nonprofit organization, and which type of fee are you referring to on that one, Belinda?
Well, in the past, I've always worked on the permits for nonprofits. So Ramona has started Pride Day, and so in the past, it's just with the first two were very, very small, and now they've come to me and asked me if I would provide the permit process for them, since I'm familiar with it. And they're a nonprofit. And there's also, they want to do a visibility walk on a sidewalk. So I know that I would have to get in touch with Danilo about that, so that I could give him a copy of the route. I'll do that. So I'm dealing with a nonprofit that wants my help. And we're
Okay.
looking at probably about 140 people. We're looking at having it at the Collier Park up here in Ramona. And they're okay with that, but they wanted me to go through the permit process to do that.
Okay, yes, for the CEP application, CEP permit, there is no associated fee. It is free. Just
Okay,
submit the application and documents, and I'll
okay,
pay them.
And on,
okay.
and,
And then
and
I
on
have
the,
one,
and
there's
on the
another
special,
question. Oh, go
and on
ahead,
the
sorry,
special,
General.
oh, okay. And on the special event permit, because it's also another permit, there's no fee also for the permit and processing.
Okay, so I just need to submit the route for the walk
Yes,
to
yeah.
you.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question is, on the application, do I need to get the parcel number for the park?
So for that information, if you don't have it available, don't worry about it. I'm gonna get it for you.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna submit you a copy of the park and what area, a map of the park and what areas we'll be using.
Correct. And make sure the address is correct.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
All right. And the last question I have in the chat is for the fire marshal. I hope David is still here. What is the etiquette on fire spinning with self-contained fires like a fire staff? That sounds really cool, Tony. I would love to see a fire staff.
David?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, thank you.
Fire spinning, yeah, I mean, we'll have to review it. Of course, we wouldn't like it during a red flag weather event, and we would make sure that there's absolutely no vegetation around, and make sure that you have water nearby to make sure that nothing happens, but it's not an absolute no. They're just difficult to permit.
And so that would be part of when they submit the plan to Jessel for the entire event, indicating all the different activities that are taking place. That's the one to provide all the details on as part of the map and documentation. So that way, when it gets to fire for their review, he'd have all the information that he needs to be able to review that based on the time of the year and the location.
Yeah, it's and then we always caveat it with the weather, right? If it's, windy and hot, and sometimes it's just a no, but sometimes we could also allow it, given the right weather, given the right setbacks from any vegetation, and to make sure that there's water to put anything out, and that you have trained staff. So we go through those and ask some follow-up questions. Not an absolute no, it's just makes it more difficult, but we've said yes to those in the past.
And I'm gonna ask Jose. You still
Yes.
here?
Yep.
Yes, please. Risk management requirement for fire spinning.
We want to make sure that we do have coverage. It's the same as the just a standard. Want to make sure that we have 1 million general liability with a 2 million aggregate.
Thank you, Jose, for the confirmation.
And Jessel, that's all the questions I see in the chat. So I'll open it up. If there's any other questions that anybody has, you can raise your hand, unmute yourself, type it in the chat. And if there's no more, then I think we would wrap this up for the day. Belinda, yes.
Hi. I just remembered too, for Earth Day, we were going to invite, this is a family that does, it's a herpetology, education on snakes. They had them there for the Animar, I believe. And they just talk about the snakes, but if you would want to touch one, you can, but it's not necessarily a petting zoo kind of thing. It's just a real educational situation. What category would that fall in terms of the permit? Is that something I need to include?
Is it gonna be part of the event? I mean, having them there?
Yes, yes, we
Uh-huh.
wanted them to
So-
come and educate people about
Mhm.
snakes.
I will have Jose answer that because risk management will require the
Yeah,
document.
so
Mhm.
as far as like reptiles and if there are going to be, if it's just an exhibition where they don't have, there's no contact to the public, then nothing's required as far as insurance goes. But if there are going to be allowed to pet, whether you want to or not, we want to make sure we do cover that they have provided insurance for the company providing that the reptiles.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you so much.
And the last one, are permits required on tribal lands? The answer there is the CEP does not have any jurisdiction on tribal lands.
Well, I would like to thank all of you so much for this because I know with new regulations, it's really important for us to be able to know what those are. And thank you very, very much for all of you being here and all of your information.
And we have a follow-up question from Tony. Who would be the point of contact for aerialist or aerial gymnastics like on suspension? Jose, do you have risk management needs documentation for this? So the question here, Tony, is that you are going to have an event and that event is a public event and you will have aerialist. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Yes. So risk management can answer.
You said which department? I'm sorry.
Jose. Risk management. What will you? I mean the requirements if there are like suspension performances or aerial gymnastics.
Okay, you said risk management.
Yes, that's
Jose.
correct, Tony. Yes, Tony. That's
Yes.
risk management is the team you want to work with on that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's its own department. I take it that probably has to do with insurance as well.
That does, and he's here today. But if you have specifics on that one, it might be good. We can always connect as you're coming to your event. But risk management will deal with the requirements for those types of events.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. So if you're gonna have an event like that, submit the CEP application, include all the activities, including the suspension, and then risk management will let you know regarding what coverage or amount should be provided. But basically, they will require 1 million per occurrence and 2 million per aggregate. If this is like a vendor that you're going to be having, then it should be coming from the vendor. But if it will be the event organizer who will be covering the activities, then there should be an agreement between the two, the event organizer and the vendor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Belinda, unmute yourself if you would.
Nope, you've already answered my question.
Legacy hand. Okay, no problem. Just click the little hand button again, and it'll drop your highlight down for us.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Any other questions from the group? Okay. Well, and I think Greg had to hop off, but on behalf of the Supervisor Anderson's office, as well as the Department of Environmental Health and Quality, I wanted to thank Jessel and the entire permitting team today for providing all the information for the CEP event process. And for those of you that joined us to get the information, thank you for taking the time. I hope that this was helpful for your planning for this upcoming year. And we wish you all the best for your events. And please reach out to us with any questions you may have as you get closer to that planning process. Yes, there is a link. This will all be available. Jessel, will you put the link for the CEP webpage in the chat for everybody, please?
Oh, tiny, hold on.